Hey everybody, welcome to today's video, and today's entitled How to Avoid Copyright Strikes Issues with Your Live Stream for Your Church. My name is Justin Edmonds, welcome. I know that this is a huge topic for a lot of people, and for me, myself even, it was a pretty big deal trying to figure this out for my church, and oh man, I don't have my background music going. I'm gonna play this and throw in the comments if it's too loud. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit here, but yeah. So I know, like I said, this was a pretty big deal for my church, and we were having issues. Anytime we were playing loops, it wasn't even just pre-recorded music. It was loops in our worship, the intros, the countdown timers, like everything. So comment down below, let me know, when are you seeing the strikes hit your Facebook and YouTube and anywhere else that you're going live to? And I'd love to know that. Hey Jason, nice to see you. Thank you for joining me. So I guess the first part we should probably jump into is, what is copyright? And regardless of where you're streaming to, understanding copyright is pretty much a must. We have to understand what exactly we're doing. With that being said, copyright law is probably the most fun thing you could ever dive into. And I didn't dive into too much of it. I did read that like the first chapter of copyright law is about 90 pages. That's insane. So it's a bunch of legalese. I didn't understand most of it, so I read through a bunch of it, got on a couple different websites, looked into that, and then watched a couple videos just to try and get like a pretty good understanding to I understood what copyright was, but I wanted to make sure that I really understood what it was, so that I could explain it to you guys. So, sorry, lost in my notes. Okay, so there are a couple different versions of copyright. So what do they protect? Let's start there. So copyright is supposed to protect economic, pretty much people making money. It allows the creator to change anyone who wishes to copy, perform, or record their work for any commercial or non-commercial use. So that's essentially, if you are creating content like a song or a loop or something along those lines, and you are trying to make money off of it, copyright protects you, the creator. And for us, it's, you know, the Hillsongs, the Bethels, the Elevations, the Gateways, the Maverick Cities. Like, they're creating music, they're trying to make some money off of it, they want to bless us, and it's probably not that they're going to sue you, you know, in your church for singing their song, but that's essentially what it's there for. It's for them to make money, and it's to protect them. Moral allows the creator to protect their work from any change which might be considered offensive or not keeping with their wishes. So essentially what this means is, I tried to do, it's actually kind of funny, I was doing an Easter performance video a handful of years ago at the church that I was working at, and we were trying to find a song to fit part of the video that we were doing. And YouTube doesn't block us out, we just can't monetize, right? And that is because YouTube has changed, because they used to block you out, and now they just won't let you monetize and make money off of it. But I'm gonna tell you how we can fix that too. So back to the story. So we were doing this Easter video, and we needed a song, and we were going through all of these licensing sites trying to find the song, and we found the song, and it was by 9 Inch Nails. And we wanted it because the instrumental was like just the perfect amount of like eerie but not creepy, you know, kind of grungy, you know, because 9 Inch Nails. And it was like probably the most expensive thing we were probably going to do for the thing, but it was like, it just was perfect. So we reached out to the site, hey, we want to license this song, we want to pay for it, can we get the approval for it? And we got declined. We got declined because they asked us who we were, what we were using it for. We obviously had to be honest, because they would find out regardless, and because it's the right thing to do. And they said, yeah, we don't really want you using it in a Easter video. So it's one of those things, it gives the artist protection, so it's not like a worship song's getting used in a horror movie or something that's super adult driven that doesn't line up with the morals or the view of the organization / band that is creating the content. I think that those are the two major things that it protects. Why does this affect us in the church? Copyright owners should be compensated for the works that they do. So the biggest thing is that I've always found is that we as Christians always try and do things the cheapest way we possibly can. And I'm a firm believer that as a Christian, I should be paying full or more than what the going rate is. I am not saying that we should be being taken advantage of, but if someone says, hey, my value is this, and that it really is the value, it's not an overshot, we should just pay that, because that's just my opinion. That's how I feel about those kind of things. And so this is one of those things, they should be compensated for their works. So we should be paying a copyright, like a license, to the artist who's creating these songs, especially when we're online. There's a couple different copyright things, and I can go more into depth of this. If you check out CCLI's website, which I will throw that up here, there is quite a bit about copyright on their website, and that is us.ccli.com. You can see about copyright here. There's a little tab for copyright law, and some other things about fair dealing and whatnot. So if you guys really want to dive into this a little bit more, you can definitely check it out there. So let's get back over here to me. In Leviticus 19:13, it says, do not defraud or rob your neighbor. Do not hold back the wages of a hired worker overnight. Exodus 20:15 says, you shall not steal. If we are performing these songs, putting lyrics up, doing all those kind of things without paying the proper licensing, that, in my opinion, is a sin and not something we should be doing. You need to have a CCLI license, and unfortunately, they're pretty much the big name in the game. They're easy, and you pay based off of your congregation and the viewership. So it's not that expensive. You're paying for how many people are viewing. So if you have 10,000 people viewing, you're going to pay some more, than if you have 5 people viewing. So, but I mean, that's an obvious stake there. Some other things that are covered under copyright when you get just a basic CCLI license is literally for you to be able to print the music off and give it to your band members, or potentially hand it out to your congregation. CCLI license also covers being able to project lyrics. That gets a little dicey on what is super legal, not legal about those things. So I'm not an expert on copyright law. I'm going to say that. I'm not an attorney. And sorry, my chair shrinks down. That's very frustrating. Sorry. So the next version of copyright is fair dealing. And, throw down in the comments and let me know if I'm talking too fast and kind of breezing through this. My goal was not to have this be a copyright video. So fair dealing is the next type of copyright that we have. I'm reading a lot of notes because I want to make sure that I'm not misspeaking this. Fair dealing is a legal term used to establish whether a use of copyright material is lawful or whether it infringes on the copyright. While an person's expectation is allowed certain works to be used or reproduced without permission from the copyright owner. Which certain works are these? There is no strict definition, but the courts consider economic impact to be a measure that defines this expectation as unique in copyright law. It is. So what I gathered from that is oh my gosh, my screen just went dark. That's fun. I'm just falling apart tonight. This is my first live stream, so in a really long time. So back to the fair dealing. So what that's essentially saying is, can you cover someone's song and post it and not get in trouble, essentially? Essentially what this is saying to me, and again, don't take me 100% on this, is that as long as I have a license of some sort to cover the song, if I'm not really making money off of it, or I'm not making very much money off of it, then the court's probably going to just be okay with it, but I'm not 100% sure. So make sure you guys check with your attorneys. The next thing is public domain. A lot of people in the church try and claim public domain. And I get into conversations with people about what public domain is, so I looked up what public domain copyright is. Copyright protection for a song expires 70 years after the end of the calendar year in which the last surviving writer or composer has passed away. The expiration term is different for sound recordings, publications, films, and broadcasts. In the US, it's even more complicated, and in other countries around the world, the language defining the public domain is quite specific at the time defined for works to enter the public domain varies greatly. I have heard so many churches say, well, we're a church, we're in public domain, so we get to do that. That's not what public domain means at all. So it means what I just said. The person that created this stuff has to have been dead for it to be in public domain, which means that it can be essentially used everywhere. You have some more fair use and some other things that I won't dive into, but that is essentially what copyright is in a nutshell. Like I said, I am not an attorney. Dive into this yourself. Go to CCLI's website. They got tons about copyright in there. Like I said, there's 90-ish pages in the first chapter of copyright law alone, and it is so boring. So, all right, so now we should get into how do we avoid this. But before we get there, I'm going to ask you guys all to subscribe, smash that thumb, comment down below, helps with the algorithm, subscribe. Would love for you guys to be a part of this content. I'm also over there on Instagram. You can check it out, Enhance Don't Distract. Drop a follow. I'm going to be dumping some shorts, some reels. I like to throw pictures of what I'm doing up there as well. And then the podcast that me and Sean Lewis do every other week. We talk about similar type things. They're a little bit longer format. They're an hour, 2 hours long. So I'd love for you guys to comment down below and let us know what you would like us to talk about on the podcast. And you can follow us in all those Spotify, Apple, Google, Anchor. If you are on the Anchor app, you can actually send us messages, voice messages that will play in the podcast as well. So, and the audio for these videos, I rip it and I put it on there too, so you guys can listen to it later. So yeah, thank you guys so much. All right, so let's get back into it. How do we avoid this? Okay, so now that we all know what it means, let's get a license. So like I said, go over to CCLI and get the streaming license. There's 2 different versions of it. It's a little confusing, and let's see here. I can see if I can pull this back up real quick. Picture. Let's get over here. I should have had this pulled up. So sorry. Okay, we're just not gonna do this. So there's 2 different versions of the streaming license. And the one streaming license gives you, some of the basics, covers pre-recorded music is what it says. It does not cover that. The algorithm is too complicated for all of the music that's there. So ignore that. I don't know why it says that it covers it. It may cover it, but in YouTube and Facebook world, their algorithm is not smart enough to be able to take your CCLI and account it to being able to play a pre-recorded Bethel song for intros and outros, things like that. If you are buying loops from Loop Community for your songs, for backing tracks, that's the biggest thing that was getting us hit with flags. And so what we ended up doing is getting this license. And after we did this, we kept getting hit even though we had the license, and there was nowhere to submit it, and it was getting really frustrating. So when Facebook changed their guidelines about like what they were going to allow us to do, we stopped streaming on Facebook altogether, went straight to YouTube, started working on going into moving into like just our website. I didn't want to go off YouTube because YouTube is so powerful. It's on every device, it's everywhere, it's super important. All right, say Jason, so did we break a few laws working on our former employer with all those countdown videos we had? That is an interesting conversation. I think, yes, we did. CCLI licenses, depending on the depth of what you buy, and our former employer tended to buy the biggest and baddest one you could possibly do. So I think we were probably okay. There are some things about like music videos and stuff on YouTube that are a little bit more gray area about how they're used. So yeah, to answer you there, we get flagged every Sunday, even on some of our hymn arrangements. Yeah, so let's talk about all that right now. So you're going to want to get the CCLI streaming license. I would suggest the cost going to the bigger one isn't that much more, but I think the basic one is probably fine for you. So music services, if you guys are doing video editing, stuff like that, what that looks like for me is when I create a YouTube video and I'm using music, so like my intro is licensed music. So I use Soundstripe. So when I go into Soundstripe, I have to essentially license every single song that I use, and then I tell it, I would generate a code for YouTube. So if you go through my channel and you look in the description of the video, you'll see my music license code. YouTube will literally read the description of the video, see that code, and does not flag for copyright. Now with Soundstripe and Epidemic Sounds and stuff like that, they now are allowing me to actually white flag my channel. So I go into my account for those music services and I authorize this account, but once I stop paying for the account, then it'll start to flag. If I generate an individual code, I can cancel my subscription anytime and it's still good to go there. You're going to do the same thing with your CCLI license. Your account number, when you log into CCLI where you purchased everything, you have like I think it's like an 8-digit code. That's your account number. That's your CCLI license. At the end in every description of your video, put CCLI license and then put that code. Make sure there's nothing else touching it. Make sure there's always a space. YouTube will read that and will stop flagging you. Since I started doing this about 2 months ago, 100% stopped getting flagged. Facebook is a little bit different. Their algorithm is not quite as mature as YouTube's. I get flagged maybe half the time on Facebook, and they'll mute some audio. And that's kind of what Facebook's doing. They're also not just taking you down, they're just muting it. Once the stream is ended, then I can go in and I can say, hey, I can dispute it and say, hey, and then I give them my CCLI license. Boom, solved, it clears up, and that strike is gone, and there's no problems there. I think that's like the super important thing, is just dumping it into your description. That's it. It's super simplistic. Funny story about how I figured all of this out. I actually called CCLI about a month and a half ago and asked them, hey, I'm paying for this license and it says that I can do all these things. I'm still getting flagged. What do I do? And they didn't know. So I had to escalate it to a manager. That woman didn't know either. Had a long conversation. So I ended up testing all this and giving this information to CCLI, because no one over at CCLI knew what was going on and how it worked. All they knew is that they provided, these licenses, and that was pretty much it. I'm sure someone in that company knew, but all of the people that were manning the phones, they didn't know. It's a simple thing that takes some time. So for us and my church, what we ended up doing is I generated a Google Doc, because we use G Suite, and I have a form of like a formula of how we do our descriptions for our live videos. And that's like place for hashtags, descriptions, name of our church, a bunch of SEO things. And then just part of, then there's the CCLI license code that's there. We copy that, we paste it into YouTube, we go through and change everything that needs to be changed for the individual service, and then it's just there. And that way it's part of that, because I want the SEO for the video, because remember everyone, YouTube is a search engine, and the SEO of your description for your live services will be a huge thing. So I will tell you that since we started doing that with the SEO, we are about 50% of our views on YouTube now are coming from search features, not from our subscribers and like from live. It's actually happening mostly post-service now, because the SEO works really, really well. Also, don't forget to throw tags in there. That's a super big thing too. And I'm starting to get into the topic. Guys, I wanted to wrap this up. This has been a good 15-20 minutes now. I thank you so much. Nathan, I hope that answered. You may still get flagged on Facebook. I can't guarantee that. Like I said, their algorithm for determining, my CCLI code is still in the description of my video. just like it is in YouTube. And we still get muted every once in a while. It's not tons. It still does happen. Like I said, I just go through and dispute it, give them the license, and it clears it up. And then that way that there's no strikes. And when you go through and watch it later, it ends up getting all caught, like all clear. It's really nice. So again, one last time, let's just wrap this up. Make sure you guys subscribe, hit the notification bell every time I go live. I'm not going to be pre-recording. I'm going to be doing live videos every time I go live now. And then again, the podcast is super important to me. If you could leave us a review on Spotify and Apple and Anchor and Google, that would be awesome. It helps a lot for other people that are trying to find the videos. If you noticed, I've changed the name to everything to Enhance Don't Distract. That is the new name of everything. So you guys use YouTube, Nathan, that's great. A lot of churches do. A lot of people are trying to like tell me, oh well, YouTube churches are going away from YouTube because they're, you know, censoring things. I haven't seen that. I haven't heard anyone that says that. I think it's just a ploy to get people to buy their product. There's so many things on YouTube that allow you to chop things off now, like you don't have to have advertisements and all those kind of things, where it used to be kind of weird, like we don't want, you know, weird commercials before our services. You can just shut all of that off. Like every time I go and watch a Elevation Church, there's no commercials because they're not monetizing anything. And then when there's like the suggested videos are, you know, YouTube algorithm has gotten way better in the last couple of years. So super important. So again, guys, thank you so much for checking me out. I hope I answered your questions. Feel free to email me at justin@emtmi.com. If you've got further questions, you can DM me on Instagram. You can comment here. I will read all the comments. I'll try and respond to all of them as well. Again, thank you guys so much. Until next time, I'm Justin, and don't forget to subscribe.